Sup guys, Fat Archon here, bringing another 40k review. Today we're going over one close to my heart. We're going to be going over how to start collecting and playing Chaos Daemons for 10th edition Warhammer 40k. So we're going to be covering a lot here. We're going to be going over like their basic playstyle, collecting and expanding your army. I got some modeling tips, some of the resources I use, and at the very end of this I have some lists I want to show you guys. Mainly 1k, but I also have a 2k list in there. Some of them build off the combat patrols, most of them don't though. We'll go over why that is here in a little bit. Before we jump too far into it, so I do need to do the big, big flashing light disclaimer. This is not a competitively focused video. Like I sort of hinted at, or what should be obvious, so this is mainly geared towards newer players, or people who are, like, expanding their demons, or getting into demons, or just curious about them. That said, so if you are looking for, like, competitive advice, so the channel, my channel, like, that's mainly what it revolves around, that sort of stuff. I just put out a video, like, 2 weeks ago, I believe, that goes over Chaos Daemons, the how to get the most out of demons in 2024. If I'm being upfront with you guys, I'm pretty proud of that video. I think it hit, like, all the topics I want to hit. I think it has good advice. So for sure, if that's something you guys are looking into or looking for, check out my video library. I've done a bunch of stuff on demons and just, like, chaos as a whole. So again, if that's something that interests you, maybe check out my channel. You might find some stuff that's hopefully helpful for you. As always, please consider liking and subscribing. At the very least, if you give the video a thumbs up, that'd be much appreciated. I can't tell you guys, like, how awesome it is to check my phone and see the certain videos, like, popping off or something like that. So, I really do appreciate it if you take the split second to hit that little icon down there. It's fine if you don't. Now, for sure, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, whether it's about demons, 40k, strategy, how the weather is, like, I don't care. If you guys ever have any questions whatsoever, you are more than welcome to reach out. I read each and every one of those comments. I will always, to the best of my ability, try to help you as best I can. I will never be, like, down on, I don't know, some little idea you have or whatever. I'll do my best to make it work. So don't be afraid to reach out. And in fact, some of the other commenters, we got some regulars. I and the other commenters are always happy to help. Alright, so with all that out of the way, the first thing we need to address is the golden rule. So the golden rule of collecting an army, and this applies to any army, not just demons, the golden rule states, always, get the units and the army that you like. Don't just get something because it seems like really powerful or it's really strong in the meta or whatever. Reason being, the metas change constantly. Well, first of all, you're spending a lot of money on this stuff, so, like, you know, I'd hope you like looking at it and you enjoy painting it. Okay, you don't have to enjoy painting it. Some people don't like painting, but I hope you enjoy your models. Like me, personally, I love building them. That's, like, my big thing. But regardless, meta changes constantly. Every, like, few months, especially lately, there's often big changes. And we have some really big changes on the horizon. Like Battleline, for example, is about to become a big deal in the new mission pack that's coming out. I believe it's this summer, so just, like, a month or two away. So Battleline's going to be big. I will say, too, I think demons are going to be especially susceptible to meta changes. I believe, so when their codex releases, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there's some huge shakeups. There's a million, like, they could go any direction with it. There's a million different directions. One of them I was thinking previously is, like, they might make it so that certain detachments can't mix certain gods together. It's like Nurgle and Tzeentch, like, hate each other, so they can't be together. Like, potentially, maybe. Like, I'm not at all sure that'll happen, but maybe that could happen. Maybe certain units that aren't good right now become, like, the best in the entire army. Speaking of, so Slaanesh, she kind of struggled from a competitive point of view. Certain units, not all of them at all. She has some really good ones, but certain units do struggle. But I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly Slaanesh becomes, like, the best freaking god in the army. 100%. I think demons might be pretty damn susceptible to those sort of changes. So again, guys, the golden rule. Always remember the golden rule. Make sure you like what you're getting. Now, I will say, one of the awesome things about demons, so, alright, here's the, why should I play demons section? One of the awesome things is, like, dude, look at how awesome their kits are. Okay, these are Chaos Knights, but they're pretty awesome too, but look at how good their freaking kits are. It is hard. It's literally hard to pick out a model that doesn't look good. I will say, so on TTS, Epidemius, like, yeah, okay, that's a pretty fair representation of Epidemius. In person, he's maybe not the best looking model ever, but aside from some of the really old ones, or, like, the resin ones or whatever, almost universally, they are awesome. My goodness, Shalaxi, she's beautiful. Keeper of Secrets, they're beautiful. Be'lakor, this dude's a pimp. Like, every army can use Be'lakor. So that's part one of why demons are so awesome. Beyond that, man, you got variety up the wazoo. You got it's almost like 4.5 armies all stapled together with their own unique playstyles, their own unique fluff, their own unique units, obviously. You got the 4 gods, and you got Undivided. That's why I say 4.5. So, yeah, man, if you're into that sort of stuff, or maybe you even want to, like, fixate on a certain style, so maybe you're like me, you really like Nurgle or whatever, you got the option there. You don't have to spread out the love and get everything. You can just focus on one god. That does make collecting them a little easier, because my goodness, man, ask me how I know. Collecting all of them, it's freaking expensive, and it takes freaking forever to like get them all painted and all that sort of stuff. But again, you got a lot of variety to choose from, a lot of variety in like play styles. They all play like completely differently. No two are really the same, with the gods especially. Yeah, no two are alike. It's pretty awesome. It's one of my favorite things about demons, like in general. Another awesome thing I love about demons in general is their fluff. If you're a lore nerd, if you're one of those people, like, my goodness, man, did you find the right army? Again, you got the 4 different gods, so each of them have their own unique backstories and all that sort of stuff, but every single unit has awesome fluff behind it. Literally every single one of them has, like, awesome fluff. Nurglings are what? They're like miniature, they're miniature Nurgles. They look like Nurgle is, like, their thing. Blood Crushers, they like the steeds that they're on. They like roam the realms of chaos, or the realm of Khorne, I should say. And in order for a bloodletter to like earn one, he has to like corral it. He has to like do some cowboy shit. Almost always he gets murdered by it, but the really strong ones are able to do it. And then you got the characters. Even the characters are fun. Changeling, this guy has so much fluff behind him. He's always causing like chaos behind the scenes. And then probably one of my favorites, the Blue Scribes. They're going out collecting all the pieces of Tzeentch to put them back together. It's beautiful. Not just for 40k. They also have, I guess, they do have the AOS fluff. I'll be honest, I don't know the AOS stuff that much, especially when it comes to the lore, but they do have Warhammer fantasy stuff. So you got, like, double your pleasurement. You even got the old world stuff, which I know, like, almost nothing about, but I'm sure there's a bunch there, too. Speaking of, so I literally just touched on it, you get, like, literally, even assuming you collect, like, everything together, you get 3 armies in one. Because, yeah, you can play it in 40k, you can play it in Age of Sigmar, and you can play it in Old World. You could even play in Warhammer Fantasy if there's any of you psychos still out there. I'm sure there are. So you got a lot of options with the game. You can play with demons, which is pretty awesome, dude. Maybe not that many people are playing 40k at your shop, or maybe they're just not there that weekend, or maybe like the day you're off work or whatever, they don't get to play 40k, but they do AOS. Well, no problem at all, man. I'm just gonna bring my Khorne army along. Okay, so that's like the cool like background stuff. What about their play style? So that's this is my favorite part of demons for sure. How I consider demons, so this is my personal opinion, I think they're the thinking man's army, or like a finesse army. They are kind of tricksy, and definitely, like, you can get a lot out of them. What you put into them, you can get out of them when it comes to, like, how powerful they are on the board. Now, I will say, while they're, like, a finesse army, in my opinion, they can be straightforward. If you go, especially, like, Khorne, Blood Crushers are, like, the most straightforward thing ever. Hammer, smash, face. Like, that's their job. Nurgle also can be very straightforward as well. It's pretty obvious. He just trumbles up the board, sits on objectives, like, pretty straightforward gameplay there. But then you got the sneaksy stuff. So if you go like Slaanesh, for sure, man, you're not going to want to be shot. So you got to like figure out an awesome game plan. You got to plan like 2 turns ahead. How am I going to get behind obscuring here? And then, he's probably going to be dumbass and move to the middle, and I'll countercharge him. Like, you got lots of fun in that regard. That is by far one of my favorite things about this army. I love when I have like a challenge. So again, they don't have to be challenging, but for sure, when it gets like top level play, they, if you're going to like tournaments and stuff, eventually, for sure, like you definitely got to put some thought behind it. And that's something I love. Talking about like top level play and just like, playing in general and like winning, I think they're exceptional at mission play. I think this army is one of the best when it comes to mission play. I've said it before, I think they're right behind like Grey Knights and like Hypercrypt Necrons when it comes to, being able to play the mission. They have so many like little stratagems, little tactics, little tricks that they can use to hold down objectives. Maybe they get murdered constantly, but they're still like, oh, you murdered me? Well, guess what? I'm back next turn. I love that play style. I think they're really good at it, especially if you build your list or like practice for it. Again, they are exceptional at the mission play. Speaking of that subject, they have some of the best stratagems in the game. They can also take like advantage of some of the more general ones. Rapid ingress is money when it comes to demons. Rapid ingress, probably of all the armies, they can make the best use of it. And there's no feeling on earth like rapid ingressing a Skarbrand behind your opponent's army. It gets pretty fucking awesome if I'm being upfront with you. Okay, so as for each god, so we'll briefly touch on each god's playstyle. So I'll start off with Nurgle. So Nurgle, you got the obvious bit. They're resilient. On average, they have way more wounds and better toughness than anybody else. Plague Drones, 5 wounds, toughness 8. Bolters are wounding them on 6, and then again, they got 5 wounds, so that's an odd number. 2 damage attacks, you're going to hate it. It's going to take a boatload of 2 damage to get through them. But more than being resilient, they're good at mission play, and specifically primary missions. So basically, you sit a Great Unclean One on the center objective, give him the enhancement so he has a 4-up, feel no pain. Good luck getting rid of that guy. Plague Bearers are fantastic. They seem so like boring and milquetoast. No, these guys are great, man. 110 points for 20 toughness 5 wounds. Like, I would pay that with almost any army. So Nurgle is surprisingly good when it comes to like mission play and that sort of stuff. And again, they're resilient. And they also have some of my favorite models on the planet. Slimex is like the coolest dude on on Earth. So definitely got a perk there. As for his arch rival, so Tzeentch. Tzeentch is, you got the tricky part to it, but mainly they're a shooting. They're like a ranged focus thing, and they're really good at it. Some of them are like exceptional. So demons aren't known for shooting, but like Lord of Change, for example, this dude's damn good at it. He's fantastic, like chewing through elites and like even tanks and vehicles. He's really good at it. Pink Horrors are also good at shooting. They basically have buffed bolters, very powerful there. On top of that, they're also deceptively resilient. Pretty much all of them have a 4-up invul. Almost all of them, like 95% of them have a 4-up invul, so they're like surprisingly resilient. They do have lower toughness, but to get through that invul, yeah, it takes some doing. So yeah, they're directly behind Nurgle when it comes to that. Next up, you have Khorne. So Khorne's the sledgehammer. Khorne's fairly straightforward. Like I said earlier, hammer smash face. That's like his motto. Now he does have some resiliency. So Blood Crushers, for example, very resilient. They have a 4-up invul with the toughness 7. That's really hard to chew through. 4 wounds each, like definitely like that. The Greater Daemons, all Greater Daemons, like universally, are very tough, but they're toughness 11, so like above average in that sense. Beyond them though, so they are a bit glass cannony or glass hammery. So Bloodletters are very strong. They will munch through pretty much anything if you buff them correctly. They'll basically kill like anything, but a lot of their units are going to be one and done. So once they do their job, they're pretty much gone. Like you get really lucky if your Bloodletters survive after you deep strike them. That said, you almost always get your points efficiency because this is a 120 point unit, and often you'll be killing you'll be killing like 350 point units left and right if you play them, in a particular way. Speaking of glass hammers, you got Slaanesh. So Slaanesh is the sleek and sexy one. Obviously, she's she's like ultra good at mission play. Super speedy. Like none of her units are slow at all. Demonette's 9-inch move, like pretty damn spicy right there. You got an 8-inch scout move with the Seekers. The Keeper's Secret moves 14 inches. So as a whole, these guys are speedy little devils. They're also really good at killing like elites and like infantry and that sort of stuff. They'll slice right through them because as a whole, they have above average armor piercing, especially if you bring the Keeper's Secrets. So they are good there. The one place where they will struggle is tougher stuff. So like vehicles, they'll really have a hard time with. Even the Keeper's Secrets is going to struggle into a vehicle because she's only strength 8. Now, luckily, you do have an option for that. You got Shalaxi. This is literally one of the most powerful units in the game when it comes to damage output. So you do have some options to shore that up. But just be aware that, yeah, that's the one thing they struggle. Luckily, you can mix gods, so, you need to deal with vehicles. Hey, I'll just bring Skarbrand or Lord of Change or any of those sort of options, so you're not dead in the water. Granted, if you do go mono Slaanesh or mono any of the gods, just be aware of their downsides. So the army as a whole, I would contend that they are one of the strongest armies in the game. They're not all the strongest army in the game, but they are one of. I believe is last week. So on Reddit, on the Warhammer competitive subreddit, they go over the each week's like GT results and all that sort of stuff. And I believe is last week, Demons had a 65% win rate. That's pretty damn good if you ask me. Now, they didn't top any tournaments, so it's kind of funny. They didn't win any of the tournaments. They didn't get first place, but if you ask me, man, top 3 at a GT or major, like, yeah, dude, you almost won. Like, it's practically the same as winning, in a sense, in a weird little way. So, yeah, dude, they're doing exceptional. The entire edition, they've been a solid 50% army win rate, which is awesome. You don't want to be overpowered. Being overpowered is lame. First of all, it makes you, like, worse at the game because, you know, you're just relying on, you know, a busted profile or whatever. But second of all, you know, it feels good. You know, you won the game fair and square. So as a whole, they've always been fantastic. Now, like I said, they're in my opinion, they're a finesse army, a thinking man's army. So if you're brand new to, like, especially to 40k in general, I would expect some growing pains with demons. That's a kind of common complaint when people are starting out with them. You know, I get tabled all the time. How do I fix it or whatever? You know, you got the obvious bit. Practice. Also, watch my videos. Maybe they'll help. But what I love is as you get better, like, yeah, you'll notice that you're winning more, and that always feels good to see yourself improve or whatever. Once you learn them really well, they are like incredibly powerful to where it's like it almost feels unfair versus your friends. Granted, once they learn like counter you, then it gets more even. But yes, they can be incredibly strong. Just expect you got to figure it out first. It might take a little bit of time to figure it out is all. One of the big things they're going to struggle into like ranged armies for the most part. There are ways to mitigate it, which we'll go over here in a bit. But again, they're very rewarding. Once you like quote unquote figure it out or whatever, it's going to feel great. Also, I think it makes you better with other armies. As you improve with this army, you'll improve on the game overall. So for sure, I think they're great for that sort of stuff. One of the last perks I wanted to go over is the fact that they make exceptional allies. If you play other Chaos armies especially, then yeah, dude, this is such a good one to get into because, yeah, you can improve your other list by bringing these guys in, or you can just add to the fluff or the theme or whatever reason you got. You play Death Guard, boom, you got Perfect Choice. You got, you do World Eaters, Perfect Choice. Optionally, you play Chaos Space Marines, and then you can bring a variety of whichever. Now, do be aware, if you go that route, you have to bring a battle line, so that's like the only restriction, but luckily, a few of these gods, at least, have really good battle lines, especially like Nurgle. Like, you're going to see Nurglings everywhere. We'll go over that in a little bit as to why, but just do be aware that, yeah, you need to bring a battle line. Also, not only can they be allies, but they can bring allies. That's why we got these big guys here, and what's awesome about that is you can shore up your list. So maybe, obviously they don't have that good at shooting. Well, suddenly you can bring in a freaking giant guy who's like crazy good at it, or 3 little dudes who are also crazy good at it. So that's a giant perk with just Chaos as a whole. The entire like super faction, it's one of my favorite things about them, the fact that they can ally with each other, which does add a variety. That way you're not bringing the same list every single week. You can change it up with, just simply bring in a knight, and suddenly it changes the entire idea behind your list. Alright, now that we got the whole, like, why are demons so awesome out of the way, now we can get into actually collecting them. So, one tip, so me personally, how I look at it when collecting demons, I think is you go one of 2 routes when first starting out with them. You either go the obvious route if you focus on a single god. So if you really like Slaanesh, just, obviously pick up all the Slaanesh kits that look sick to you, get them together, and, play them that way. The other way, and how I would do it, or did do it, I would pick, like, 2 gods, and kind of go that route. That way you get, you get a little bit more pleasurement, for your fun. Some common ones, Nurgle plus Khorne is pretty common. And then Tzeentch plus anybody is pretty common as well. Slaanesh plus Khorne, like, you wouldn't think it would work out, but it actually does, because you get like the hammer and then you get the scalpel. So you got some options there. That's what I would recommend. Pick out 2 of them that you like especially. Obviously, you can go the third route and just pick out a little bit of everything you like. If you're going for competitive play, like if that's your main focus, then obviously that's like the best way to do it. Currently, there is 0 downside whatsoever to mixing gods, so you totally can, and often should, pick out the best from each god. Now, you also have Undivided to pick from. So, Be'lakor, we'll go over him in a short bit, but Be'lakor can go with literally any god. He pretty much improves, like, any list you put him in with, so he's a good option. You got the Soul Grinders. These guys are crazy good. We'll go over them shortly. And then the Demon Princes. What's cool about Demon Princes, if you do run the other Chaos armies, you can just run them as either or. So I could run them as one day is Chaos Space Marines, next day is Demons, third day is World Eaters. Undivided is definitely an awesome perk you got there. One piece of advice I would have is be careful of the resin models. So the really old ones, not only do they really not look that good in person, like I love Epidemius so much as like a character and all that stuff, but if you were to ever see him in person, this is actually, in TTS it's way better, but the Nurglings underneath of them, like dude, they just look like blobs in person. The other fear I would have, you never know when GW is going to axe a kit and not replace it. I do think Epidemius especially, he's really freaking popular. Everybody loves that guy, to my knowledge. So I do think if and when they replace him, yeah, they'll give him a new kit. But other certain ones, like the old ugly Changecaster, there's certain ones out there, the Transweaver for Slaanesh, I would be very careful with resin. I'd be hesitant to get it. I already touched on it earlier, but if you plan on using them for allies, especially if that's like your main focus or whatever, be positive you get a battle line, and it has to be the battle line for the same god. So I couldn't bring like Bloodletters and then bring a Lord of Change or whatever. No, it has to be pink whores or blue whores and then Tzeentch. So it's actually pretty smart to pick up battle line. And again, if you plan on running them either currently or in the future as allies, you might just pick up all the battle line kits. Something that's awesome about their battle line especially, almost universally, they're really cheap in 40k dollars. I believe they're $33 for a full squad of pretty much any of the battle line. Now, they are somewhat older kits. They are older kits, but they're, first of all, they're plastic, and second of all, once you get them painted up, they really look fine. You can barely notice the difference in their age, so don't worry too much about that. But again, if you plan on using them as allies, be positive you get all the battle lines, and if you plan on getting like a big collection as time goes on, I would just pick them up early. You never know when like they'll get replaced with a much more expensive kit or anything silly like that. When it comes to allies, so on that subject, just real briefly, pretty much all the gods are great at it, except for Bloodletters are not that good on their own unless you buff them up. They really need a Rin Master to like really shine. So if you were gonna, mix them in with your CSM or whatever, I'd be a little hesitant on that. Demonettes, so the characters that you can bring, so by bringing the Demonettes, it unlocks them obviously really good. You bring friggin' Shalaxi, well, okay, you couldn't afford Shalaxi because it has to be 500 points, but you bring a Keeper of Secrets. But the Demonettes themselves, one of the lesser battle line troops, so it kind of, you're paying a pretty expensive tax in order to bring those characters. So I just want to point that out. For Nurgle, it's super easy. You just bring Nurglings, man. 40-point unit, bada bing, bada boom. And then for Tzeentch, pink whores are actually really powerful, and even blue whores are really powerful, especially in like the new Dread Talons. I went over that in my Dread Talons video, so they got some options there. Just be aware of it. Another tip for collecting, a 3D printer will do wonders with demons. They're pretty expensive. Certain kits are crazy expensive. Blood Crushers, I think it's only 5 in a box, and it's $100. It might even be just 3. I'm pretty sure it's 5, but it might even be just 3. They're one of the more expensive kits out there. You get a 3D printer, man, it's just like suddenly becomes a couple dollars. Now, unfortunately, so I printed all my stuff like last year, so I haven't really had to do it lately, aside from like little bits or whatever. But there's one guy I used to use all the time for demons specifically. His name was E-Man G. Unfortunately, his website got taken down, so none of the stuff he listed is there anymore. But he had the best demons I saw. I believe what he did, I think how he did it is he ripped the models from Total War, and they look so freaking good, especially like the Blood Crushers were fantastic. But I have heard that they're like hidden out there on the internet. So keep your eyes out for E-Man G if you ever start 3D printing. And guys, if you think about it, a 3D printer is the cost of a single Greater Daemon, and you could literally print an entire army, not just for demons, for literally anything. And maybe you love GW, you love the corporate boot or whatever it is. You don't have to make whole models. You can make just like bits to spruce things up. Demons, every army can do with kit bashes. Demons don't necessarily need it. Like, they're pretty awesome on their own, but like if you play CSM and that sort of stuff, that's where kit bashing like really shines. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to collecting, Age of Sigmar models make perfect proxies. Some of them are even better than the current kits or whatever. So like Blood Crushers, easy example there. I forget the name of the army, but they have the Khorne army, the Blades of Khorne, I think it is. They have really good ones. Sure, they have humans on top, but not a single person's going to tell you can't run them that way, especially if you're just playing with friends or whatever. They're exceptional. Slaanesh has really good Seekers. Again, some of those kits are better than the current ones. I will say play with the Seekers. I'm pretty sure they're bigger than these ones, but either way, man, they make perfect counts as, and yet, and again, they often, almost always, because they're so new, they look better than the current kits, so definitely keep your eyes out at the AOS. If I was to start from scratch again and start collecting again, 1000%, man, I'd be looking at the AOS range as well. They do have some really good, like, start collecting type kits that are really affordable as well. So, yeah, keep your eyes out. Definitely check, if you go on, like, the Warhammer.com page, like, definitely check out their range, see if there's anything that catches your eye. Alright, for box sets. So, I got some good news, and I got some bad news. The good news is if you like Khorne, which, by the way, Khorne's considered the most powerful one right now, so it's not that bad a thing, but if you like Khorne, you're in luck, man, because they got a bunch of Khorne kits for you. They got 2 of them, in fact. If you don't like Khorne, though, then, yeah, you're in for some fun. Granted, we'll get there. It's not the end of the world, like, at all. Man, I will say, they used to have they were called start collecting kits, and they were the most wonderful thing in the history of 40k. And truthfully, I think it helped revitalize 40k, because, yeah, that's when it seemed to get really popular. I'd go to the store and I'd pick them up all the time, because they're such a steal, and you used to be able to get them on eBay for $75, and it was ridiculous, man. I bet you if I were to, so I still have an unopened box of the Tzeentch one, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like $150 or something like that. It was ridiculous how many models they came with. Every now and then they show up in the wild, so, like, for real, keep your eyes open for a start collecting kit that's hopefully, like, affordable. Don't pay the gouged prices or whatever, but start collecting, that was a different time. But anyway, so alright, we're gonna start off with the combat patrols. So combat patrol is actually pretty good. So you get 20 Bloodletters, so 2 squads of Bloodletters. You get 3 Blood Crushers. You get the Blood Master, who's a really good leader for the Bloodletters. Basically lets you make what's called a Bloodletter bomb, so he's exceptional there. And then you get 2 units of 5 Fleshhounds, which are great. These guys are speedy little devils. They're beasts, so they can move through walls. They're cheap. They're only 70 points, so they're great at mission play, great for sitting on your home objective, all that sort of stuff. So combat patrol, if you like Khorne, or if you're just getting demons, period, these make a fantastic core. Speaking of, every army needs a core. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, these guys hit like pretty much every single base. Your other option is called I believe they called the Boarding Patrol. So this has Karanak, so he's the named Fleshhound. You get 10 Fleshhounds and then 10 Bloodletters. Now, I'll be upfront with you. So this is, if you get it on discount, it's $110. If you get the USD, obviously. If you get the Combat Patrol, it's only $130. So $20 more gets you double the Bloodletters, a better character, arguably, and then Blood Crushers. So, like, 100%, it's like no contest. I would just get this, like, yeah, straight away. Even if you pay full MSRP, which you shouldn't, you almost never should. 15% discount is, like, the standard. If you're paying full price, unless it's your local store, you really shouldn't be doing that, guys. But even if you pay full price, this is $160. This is $130, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, $30 gets you, I don't even know how many dollars more of stuff it is, but 100%, I would go Combat Patrol pretty much every single time. So now, obviously, there's an issue here. These are only for Khorne. So, you know, what if you play Slaanesh or Tzeentch or anything like that? Well, I guess one way you could look at it is you're free from the shackles of the box set. So you do got options there. And honestly, it gets a little fun because you get to pick out the specific things that you want, that you like. So it's not the end of the world. Again, you can get a discount on pretty much everything. 15% is like the base. I mentioned earlier that the Battlelines, at least, the troop kits are affordable. And some of the other kits are relatively affordable as well. So it's not like the end of the world with them. Some of them do get spendy, so like Plague Drones can be a little expensive to collect, but we won't worry too much about that. So, alright, when you're collecting an army, no matter which god or what army it is, I believe that, and I'm pretty sure it's a common mantra, that you need a core. So, the core, when I'm looking at an army, you need a few things. You need 4 of them. And actually with demons, it's going to be 5 of them. So you need an HQ, whether it's a Greater Daemon or like a quote-unquote basic foot guy. You need troops, or battle line, more specifically. You need a hammer, oops. So that's either something that does a lot of damage, takes a lot of damage, or does a little bit of both. Blood Crushers are like perfect for it. And then you need anti-tank. Anti-tank's huge. So that's something demons are going to struggle with. One option, I mean, we're going to go into specifics here in a moment, but like Lord of Change makes a great anti-tank. Skarbrand makes great anti-tank. Greater Demons General make a great anti-tank. The fifth thing for demons, I think you need skirmishers. Skirmishers and like mission play little devils, which is vital. In my eyes, I think it's vital. That's how I win with demons. I get tabled all the time, or near tabled all the time, but I still win in the end because I scored more. I think it's huge that you get skirmishers. Actually, that's a pretty good name, a skirmisher. I think it's huge that you get skirmishers for certain. So, alright, to start off with, so HQs. So one of the first ones I'd be looking at, no matter what size my army is Be'lakor. I guess if you're playing really small points, like 500, yeah, don't bring him. Obviously. 1K, he'd be, so long as your friend has, like, anti-tank of his own or whatever, because that is something, the Greater Daemons, like, can be a struggle in really small point games, so do be aware of that. But yeah, Be'lakor, this guy pops on multiple levels. I think he is exceptionally good for new players, because he helps mitigate one of the biggest downsides of demons, that being ranged firepower. So his big thing, or one of his big things, is the aura he puts out. So Wreathed in Shadows. Basically, he puts out a 6-inch bubble, and anybody within that 6-inch bubble can't be shot from enemy units that are more than 18 inches away. So that means, in some situations, not usually, but in some situations, you deploy directly on the line with your entire army, and your opponent's not going to be able to shoot him if he goes first. So lots of value right there. On top of that, he puts out a bubble of the Shadow of Chaos. So like your armies and like your army ability like keys off of that directly. You need your Shadow of Chaos. Well, this guy's a mobile version of it. On top of that, he's just a beat stick. So he's a 12-inch move, toughness 10, 18 freaking wounds with a 4-up invul. So he's like super meaty, super hard to eat through. Again, especially at smaller point value games, he will be a terror there. As you improve at the army and get a little better, then you can consider not bringing Be'lakor, but I do think personally, if you're going for like a strong unit or whatever, I think early on, I think he belongs in there. His model is also beautiful. I loved painting Be'lakor. I loved seeing Be'lakor on the table, so you got a lot of advantages there. The other option, the sort of runner-up in a sense, is the Demon Princes. So you got two choices. You can make them, so don't forget you can put like enhancements on them and whatnot. And the winged version specifically, he can get pretty damn meaty, because if I'm not mistaken, he can get +3 attacks. Yep, +3 attacks, and then you can give him either precision, sustained, or lethals. With the relic, I believe he goes up to strength 12, so all of a sudden you're getting, yeah, man, and extra attacks. I believe you can get him up to like 12 attacks, something like that. So you make a little beat stick, or if you want to stay themey, you can always put him Nurgle, give him a 4-up, feel no pain, toughness 11, etc., etc. Again, you can run them in other armies, so Demon Princes are fine, especially if you're like on a budget, but you need a strong HQ, like a meaty HQ. Demon Princes are fantastic for it. For God-specific HQs, so one of my favorite, when it comes to Khorne, Skarbrand. Skarbrand is a nasty dude, man. He has insanely powerful attacks. He had straight up just damage 8. All the time, I've had so many times where you like rapid ingress him behind your opponent's tanks, so he has like a tank line. It's screwing up the rest of my army all game. Well, I get Skarbrand up in there, and he just picks up 2 of them. I literally pick up 2 of them. You can go into, like, really heavy-duty elites, Terminators, Possessed Bombs, that sort of stuff. Every single hit, every single failed invul, I should say, is immediately a dead model. They could have like a 3-up, feel no pain. It doesn't matter, man. He's doing 8 damage each time. He also clears chaff like it's nothing. I believe he has 16 attacks or 14 attacks. They're damage 2. So playing off of what I'm just mentioning there, though, one of the best ones. So this is, if you're going to go mono Khorne especially, get this unit. Don't even question it. Rendmaster. And why he keys off of like Skarbrand, for example, he gives +1 strength, +1 AP, and +1 damage. Suddenly, he's going from 2 damage sweeps to 3 damage sweeps. Now he really is picking up entire squads of Terminators. Yeah, dude, Rendmaster is a must-have. More than just Skarbrand, your Bloodletters. He is vital to running Bloodletters. Bloodletters, they got 2 attacks, damage 2, which is like, okay, and, you know, that's pretty good. AP 2, like, oh, that's pretty okay. 120 points, like, yeah, it's serviceable. How about we make them AP 3, strength 6, damage 3 for 120 points? Oh, my goodness. You know what's even more fun than that? What if you bring 3 Rendmasters, because you're a cool dude, and we should hang out sometime. Suddenly, you're going to make them damage 5, AP 5, strength 8. it gets redonkulous. Imagine how fun that would be as well. Now, they can only target a single unit. If you bring 3 of them, you can target 3 different units. And again, how I talked about metas changing, don't be surprised if Rinmaster changes a little bit. He's pretty common. When you see Khorne lists, he's pretty common. But yeah, he's one of the best HQs in the entire game. He's fairly pointed, if you ask me. He's 150 points, so like, you know, you're paying for it. But yes, Rinmaster, don't even think about it. Pull out your credit card right now and buy. I don't run 3 of them like ever, but 1 or 2 of them very valid. Also, I think their foot lords, their foot HQs are some of the better ones in the army as well. So Bloodmaster is really strong. Do I have the card over here? Bloodmaster, he gives you, first of all, he gives you a 6-inch consolidate, which is huge. That gets you onto objectives, all that sort of stuff, but he also gives you +1 to wound. So normally you go into a vehicle with your Bloodlighters, because that's who you attach them to. Normally they're wound on 6s. Suddenly toss this guy in, wound on 5, so it's literally double your damage output. That's a big deal. Then you toss freaking Rinmaster on there. Now they're wounding on 4s all of a sudden. Yeah, dude. Well, okay, not Rinmaster. There's combos you can do. Great Unclean One, knock them down to like T9, and suddenly you're wounding on 4s. Regardless, even into infantry, they're fantastic. So normally be wounding on 3s. How about wounding them on 2s with all your 3 damage, AP3? It gets like nutso. So Bloodmaster's fantastic. Skull Taker is the other option. Skull Taker gives you, he basically gives you dev wounds. And dev wounds, that means you can go into Terminators, you can go into freaking Lionel Johnson's got a 3-up invol. Nope, that's not an issue anymore. I'm just gonna, like, bypass that. He also helps you regen command points by killing characters. Not that that comes up that often. He himself is a beat stick as well. So you get, again, so Rinmaster is a key to Khorne, guys, in my opinion. You don't have to run them, but, like, pretty much every unit gets boosted. Because, for example, this guy would go up to AP3 damage 4 with his dev wounds. You get a single dev wound through, that's a dead character. He has precision. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So the Foot Lords are also great. They're really cheap. Bloodmaster 65 points. Skull Taker's 85 points. That's a steal. So for less than 200 points with your Bloodlighters, you're getting a damn dangerous bomb. So for Khorne, he has really good HQ choices if you didn't notice. Even the Bloodthirster is also great. Some people debate if he's better than Skarbrand. I do think Skarbrand's better. Not that we're going, like, competitive focus, so go whichever looks cool. Unfortunately, the kits are separate, too. Like, I'm sure you could kit bash the Bloodthirster to be like Skarbrand, but regardless, they are different kits. He gets +1, he gets +1 to hit. Skarbrand gets +1 attack, basically to your Bloodlighters, like the main one. They can also boost up these guys. But Bloodthirster, very valid as well. He's right behind Skarbrand when it comes to the damage. What I don't like is he has variable damage. It's D6 +2, I believe. That's the one thing holding him back. But he's, again, he's just as valid. So, yes, you are spoiled with HQs when it comes to Khorne. Next up, so for Nurgle, he too, so this is going to be a common theme with all the demons, he too has some of the best characters. So the big standout, the like all-star of pretty much every single demon list at a competitive level, it's going to be the Great Unclean One. You give this, first of all, he's really cheap. 230 points is a steal, just that baseline. You give him the enhancement for a 4-up Feel No Pain. He basically doubles his amount of wounds. Suddenly, it's like he has 40 wounds. 40 toughness 12 wounds with a 4-up invol. He also gives the rest of your army in a 6-inch aura, give them a 6-up Feel No Pain. That's essentially a 20% boost. When you have as many wounds on average as you do, like that really adds up. And then Nurgle's Rot can be a key ability. Nurgle's Rot, at the end of your movement, you choose an enemy within 12 inches, and you subtract 1 from their toughness. He keys off the Bloodletter bombs, like, exceptionally well. A quick tip for you, if you do run Great Unclean One, pretty much always give him that enhancement. When he has the 4-up Feel No Pain, he he makes life easy. What I especially like is he's very straightforward. If you want a straightforward model, just run him right onto the center objective, have him sit there all game, bada bing, bada boom, man. He did his job. Because your opponent has to decide, do I focus like literally my entire army's firepower in this dude, or do I worry about the army or the units that are out there scoring? Next up, Radagast is a fantastic choice as well. Radagast buffs the rest of your Nurgle stuff. He's mainly for buffing the Nurgle. He gives them +1 damage. So, obviously that's really strong. That literally doubles the damage on most of your units, many of your units. The other ones, it doesn't double. It gives them like a +33% boost. So that's powerful. He also has a very powerful aura. So enemy units within 6 inches, they have their move and their objective control. So if you're going for mission play, that's a big deal there. He has a pretty good flamer. It has dev wounds with a 2d6 attack. attacks. He's not bad melee himself. Remember, you're boosting him with +1 damage, so he's often damage 4. Radagast is a great choice. Me personally, I would lean for Great Unclean One first, but then Radagast would probably be second. By the way, they work fantastic as little buddies when they go work with each other. Very powerful that way. Epidemius is a fine choice for the foot version. Epidemius basically gives you a 4-up invul to the unit he's attached to, so Plague Bearers. Plague Bearers are already a pain in the ass to deal with. Giving them an even better invul is like a huge deal, and he too can help you with the command point region. Now, it is a little tougher than the other. You have to kill 7 or more models with your Nurgle units, but if you have like Radagast, for example, or maybe doing a Demon Prince, that sort of stuff, it's really not that hard to do. Epidemius, yeah, he's legit, and he does meaningful damage as well. D6 +3, 2 damage attacks. Maybe you boost it up with Radagast. Not bad in the least bit. Last up, I really like, at least from like a modeling perspective and like a looking badass, and he's pretty good on the table. He's totally fair, like rules-wise. I like Horticulus Slimix. This is one of my favorite models in the game. I would run 3 of them if I could. They're named, so I can't, but I freaking love this guy. He's only 120 points, so super cheap. Toughness 10 with 10 wounds and a 4-up invul. He also has an actual save, a 3-up save. That's something that's really rare in this army. The only other unit that has like an actual save are Demon Princes with their 2-up save that I can think off the top of my head. Slimix, if you just want a cool looking or fluffy army, can't go wrong with this dude. For Slaanesh. So Slaanesh has some really good options. One of the best in the game, one of the most like point efficient ones in the game is going to be Solesky. They're only 120 points, which is a steal for what you're getting. So 9-inch move, super fast, T6 with 9 wounds, so for 120 points, not bad at all. But what makes her really pop, Delightful Agony, so when she dies, you roll a dice, on a 2-up, she stands back up with all of her wounds remaining. So she's almost, you basically double her wounds. So you're paying 120 points for 18 wounds. That is damn powerful. She does pretty good damage output herself. You got 6 3-damage attacks plus 6 1-damage attacks. You know, that's going to chew through elites and infantry like it ain't no thing. She also, so I personally, I would run her solo most of the time. I wouldn't attach her, but if you did attach her Demonettes, they suddenly get critical wounds on a 5-up, so they're doubling their output into certain units. It has to be successful wounds, but into certain units, doubling their dev wounds, in fact, so no armor saves at all. That's actually pretty big. So if you were going mono Slaanesh, I take back what I was saying. If I was going mono Slaanesh, I would consider attaching her to the Demonettes. That way they're, yeah, getting way better damage output into the stuff that they, you know, often will struggle with. Keeper Secrets is a damn fine choice. There's certain tournament lists, so I quit running her as often, but in the beginning of the edition, I used to run her with almost every single list. She definitely does some work. The turn 1 charge is like her favorite thing on the planet. Also, this is funny for Slaanesh, because, yeah, it's Slaanesh we're talking about. They are some of the most resilient. Next to the Great Unclean One, they're some of the most resilient. If you're going competitive, you would always give her the 5-up Feel No Pain, so the shield. 5-up Feel No Pain is tantamount to a 50% boost, so she's like a, 27 wound model all of a sudden, which is nuts for how much you're paying for it. She does pretty good damage into like elites and infantry. She does really well, in fact, because she's going to have 10 attacks, all 3 damage. She has an aura that gives +1 AP to all of your Slaanesh within 6 inches. She also, when people are attacking her, they have, whether it's ranged or melee, they have to subtract 1 to hit. So yeah, 4-up invul, 5-up Feel No Pain, and -1 to be hit. She is incredibly hard to kill. So Slaanesh definitely has a lot of value there. If I was going mono Slaanesh or even mixed demons, very much I'd be looking at her. Next up, you got the obvious one, Shalaxi, one of the best characters in the game when it comes to like damage output and murdering stuff. If it's a monster vehicle character, they're pretty much dead no matter what they are. I believe on average, so just on average, into a knight, I believe she does 24 damage, something like that. Because she's rerolling all of her hit wounds, all of her wound rolls, and all of her damage. And she has a D6 +2, strength 14, AP 3, potentially AP 4 if you got a keeper next to her, like crazy amount of damage there. She also rerolls her charge rolls into those same units. So yes, Shalaxi, very, very like powerful. She also has a 5-up Feel No Pain just built into her. She is like crazy. She's got any and everything you could possibly want. She is expensive. She's 450 points, so you're definitely paying for it. She also has real ranged output as well. What is it? D6 multi-damage attacks are going out there with dev wounds, sustained hits 3 if you focus it, which you pretty much always focus all of your shooting. Yes, Shalaxi is the real deal. Lastly, for the foot versions, Mask of Slaanesh, I think, is one of the better options. They have Lone Operative and Fight First, so those are both huge. She's relatively cheap, I believe 85 points. She's infantry with a 9-inch move, so she's speedy little devil. She can advance and charge, and then her biggest thing, not only will she help Slaanesh, but she'll help the rest of your army. So for Slaanesh, basically at the start of the fight phase, you choose an enemy unit within, I believe it's 6 inches, and you give them a certain nerf. The enemy unit gets -1 to its wound, so that helps everybody. And then Slaanesh demons, they get +1 to their wound. So how a keeper might struggle into vehicles on this sort, Mask directly helps with that. Instead of winning on 5s, you're winning on 4s with it. So Mask, definitely valid choice to look at. Last up, we got Tzeentch. So I really like Tzeentch. Tzeentch has really good HQs. Lord of Change is one of my favorite units in the army. When it comes to, like, power, let's see, where's your card? So he has an enhancement if you decide to take it. That'll give him +2 strength when you're in your Shadow Chaos for his ranged weapons. Also gives him +6-inch range. Both of those are pretty big deals, so I would always run this guy with the enhancement. Even without that, though, so he has a cool aura. He gives +1 strength to the ranged strength characteristic of all Tzeentch units, so he's also buffing himself. So just baseline, he's strength 10 with his main shooting. You put the relic on him, he's going up to strength 12. Suddenly he's taking out predators, taking out rhinos, taking out any of those like T11 and under tanks. Suddenly no issue at all. Even an infantry, not an issue. He also gets Master of Magics, so when he shoots, you can get Ignores Cover, Lethal Hits, or Sustained Hits D3 on his main weapon. I would always go range focus with this guy, so don't give him the Baleful Sword, give him the Rod of Sorcery. Again, that's 6 more. It'd be Strength 10 if you had the Relic, multi-damage attacks going out there. Yeah, Lord of Change is the real deal. Another dude who, like, keys off directly with him, or works, like, hand-in-hand with the Lord of Change, if you went that route, is going to be Kairos Fate Weaver. So he has actual indirect, so he's sort of like artillery. It's going to be strength 9, it'd be strength 10 if you had Lord Change, -3 AP. That's huge. Multi-damage going out there. Kairos, very, very powerful. His other abilities are great as well. The first one is basically you roll a dice, and if it's high, when you use a stratagem on any Tzeentch, so himself or a friendly Tzeentch within 6 inches, you roll a die, and if it's greater than the battle round, you get a refund basically. So turn 1 and turn 2, it's near guaranteed. Beyond there, it becomes more variable then. He also has One Head Looks Back, so once per battle, when an enemy uses a battle tactic stratagem, you make it cost 1 more the rest of the game. Rules as written, it would cost 1 more each and every time they use it, so the first time after, it costs 1 more, second time it costs 2 more, and then eventually it becomes, like, impossible for them to use. Kairos, definitely very powerful, especially with that indirect. That's a pretty big deal. For foot guys, you got the Changeling. So Changeling is one of the more fun characters in the game, not only from like a gameplay perspective, but like fluff and lore perspective. Absolutely love this guy. So he too has Lone Operative and Stealth, so he's -1 to be hit. He has a Flamer that does meaningful damage, multi-damage Flamer, and then what's really cool is his abilities. So each time an enemy wishes to target him, whether it's ranged or melee, they have to take a Battle Shock test. If they fail, not only are they battle shocked, but they also just can't target them at all. So certain units, if they don't have like good leadership, like they aren't even going to want to target this guy. There's going to be other cases too, when you guys are fighting over a primary objective and it's like a big deal, like they need those points and stuff. Yeah, man, they're not going to target this guy, or at least if they do, they're really going to risk it, because if they fail and they get battle shocked, they suddenly can't hold the objective anymore because they have no objective control. So that's a pretty big deal. He also has Mischief and Confusion. Basically, at the start of your opponent's shooting phase, you choose an enemy within 12 inches, roll a d6. On a 2 to 5, they're -1 to hit. On a 6, they can't shoot anything at all. That's extremely rare. Don't ever count on that, but when it comes up, that's going to be a pretty big deal. Changeling is an all-star. I love that dude. He's very powerful. You also got the Blue Scribes. They're pretty good as well, mostly because they have Lone Operative. That's like the only thing about them. 12-inch move, Lone Operative, and they're cheap. 75 points. They do next to no damage. Their abilities are like clever. The one that's like okay is the Sorcerous Barrages. Basically, every enemy unit within 6 inches, you roll a die, and you can do between 1 and d6 mortal wounds if you roll a 6. So that does that plinks a few wounds off certain units. If something's like hurt, it's on its last wound or whatever, then it becomes really powerful there. But Blue Scribe, definitely a valid choice as well. So for Battleline, so when I think Battleline, a lot of times I think of like either holding objectives or like fighting over objectives or like flipping objectives. So for Battleline, it's kind of funny with demons. You know, you only got so many choices. Only Nurgle and Tzeentch have multiple choices. So I'm only gonna, you know, this video is gonna take long enough. So I'm only gonna focus on a few of them. Pink Horrors are really damn good Battleline or like objective holders. Especially if you keyed off the, we have a stratagem to deep strike within 3 inches, so for sure you can just steal objectives right under people's noses. And what's cool, so you can't charge when you use that stratagem, but you can still shoot stuff, and these guys have actually pretty good shooting. It's basically a boosted bolter, so 2 shots, hit on 3s, strength 4, 5 if you have a Lord of Change nearby, AP 2, and damage 1. You can also boost the AP, so when it's like really important. Their best part though is their ability, so split. Each time one of them dies, you roll a die. On a 4-up, they split into 2 blue whores, and then your blue whores also split into brimstone whores. These guys, there's a lot of situations where they're basically invulnerable. If somebody doesn't have enough firepower to kill it in a single shooting attack, so a single unit's attack phase, or well, not the whole phase, just their attack, yeah, dude, like a lot of times they won't even bother. Pink whores are exceptional. They're pretty expensive. I believe 140 points currently as of recording, but they're worth it. They really are worth it. I've been experimenting with them a lot more, and yeah, I've had a lot of good results with them. The runner-up's going to be the blue whores, preferably, so they're pretty expensive. They're 125 points, so only 15 behind the pink whores, so, you know, it's kind of questionable if you get them. That said, they do have infiltrate, so if you need to, like, practice, or, you know, you're trying to up your game with the sneakiness or whatever, infiltrate is, like, extremely powerful there. They also do have cackling whores, so they can subtract 1 from your enemy's leadership, and that does play into your army ability, because when people fail their leadership in your Shadow Chaos, they're taking mortal wounds. Better yet, maybe you, if you use them as allies, then they are like pretty good. If you're running Dread Talons for the CSM, they're really good there. Otherwise, pink cores make perfectly fine addition to like pretty much any CSM list. The other standout battle line, in my opinion, is going to be Plague Bearers. Me personally, I run a unit of Plague Bearers in pretty much every single Demons list I write. They're just so damn efficient for the cost you're paying. T5, 2 wounds, and you get 10 of them for only 110 points. So that's 20 T5 wounds for 110 points. That's some of the better like wounds to points ratios in the game. They don't do that much damage, but they actually do okay. 2 attacks, strength 4, AP 1, 1 damage. So like skirmishers and that sort of stuff that try to like wrestle with them, first of all, they're barely going to kill any of them. Second of all, yeah, you'll be picking them off. So while you're like barely getting hurt at all, you're killing like half their squad each fight phase. They're actually like surprisingly like good in that regard. Theoretically, Nurglings are like one of the best, like quote-unquote battle line troops, but I consider them like a mission play, so we'll save that for here for a moment. But just be aware that, yeah, Nurglings are like one of the best units in the game. 100% you need to have Nurglings if you don't already have them. If you're going for Nurgle-themed or like competitive play, 100% they're worth looking at then. Otherwise, so Demonettes, everybody has their own playstyle, and for my playstyle, I don't really like Demonettes that well. That is something I wanted to mention, is technically you don't have to bring Battleline. Technically, yeah, you don't have to bring them. It's not a requirement in 10th edition. So if you don't like these guys, by all means, man, go ahead and skip them. Bloodletters, we're going to get to them in a second. Again, I don't really consider, I guess they do flip objectives pretty good. They do have 2 objective control, which is a big deal. Two objective control is huge, especially with how the meta is about to change. I mentioned that in the beginning of the video. Come summer, they're changing the mission pack. That will be a bigger deal there. But again, for the like standing on objectives, you can't do much better than Plague Bearers and or Pink Horse. They're both pretty damn even. In fact, they're sort of interchangeable, at least for that goal. Next up, we got Hammers. So Hammers belong in every single list. It's just like a natural part of list building. Again, they either do a boatload of damage, take a boatload of damage, or do a combination of the two. They're sort of like the playmakers for your army. So the first one should be obvious to anybody getting into demons, Greater Daemons. Greater Daemons are an extremely common sight. Pretty much every single list ever is going to have them, unless you're purposely, like, for whatever reason, you don't want to go that route, which some people do. I've made fun lists. For me, they were fun lists that didn't have any Greater Daemons, but each and every one of them, I can't think of a bad Greater Daemon. Like, obviously, some are better than others, but every single one is at least usable. So, 100%, man, find the one you like, or better yet, find the few that you like. You can make an entire list out of Greater Daemons if you wanted to. And by the way, that'd be, like, really fun. Yeah, I would love to play that list. But yes, you got the obvious one of Greater Daemons. Next up, Bloodletters. Bloodletters are one of the better hammers in the game, in my opinion, when it comes to, like, points efficiency. Again, you pretty much have to or need to buff them with the Ringmaster, but once you do that, it gets crazy. They do more damage. They're probably the highest damage in the entire army. I think they would outdamage even Shalaxi. When you give them the Ringmaster, and then you attach like a Bloodmaster, so this is exactly how I do it. I attach either Skulltaker or Bloodmaster to them, and then you buff them up with the Ringmaster. Legit, man, like, I can't even think of something that could stand up to them. They get crazy good. If you fight, like, maybe one of your friends plays the big Imperial Knights all the time, maybe bring 2 Ringmasters, and then watch his jaw drop as he sees what happens, especially if you give him, like, Dev Wounds, or better yet, the +1 to wound to be exceptionally good there. Yeah, Bloodletters, ultra good, and then also for Khorne, Blood Crushers should be obvious. Something that's really strong about Blood Crushers is they give you access to really easy mortal wounds. Where the hell is the card here? Either way, for each model in the unit, so if you're doing a 3-man, 3 dice, otherwise 6 dice, each 4-up, you do D3 mortal wounds. So if you had a 6-man, you do an average, just average, of 6 mortal wounds into your opponent. If you roll hot, man, you'll do crazy amounts sometimes. And that unlocks, like, shenanigans. You can, charge a screen, you wipe them out, or wipe out most of them so they leave a gap. Now you can pile into a different unit and fight them instead. Unlocks a lot of stuff there. These are one of the best units in the game when it comes to, like, power. You'll see them all the time in tournament, and well, every list likes them. They look cool, but especially tournament lists, you'll see them all the time, left, right, and center. For Slaanesh, she has a really good one. Did I not put the model here? They have Fiends. Fiends, so the reason they're not here, so this, I loaded this map from my original review, which was like 9 months ago or whatever, and Fiends were terrible then. Fiends are great now. They're sort of like they're like the Slaaneshi version of Blood Crushers. They're only 120 points, so really cheap. They have a good save, good output. They have 14-inch move. They're beast, unlike Blood Crushers. So they have exceptional mobility. They can move through walls and all that sort of stuff. And then they boost the rest of your army. I believe they give a -1 to hit. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but they have a good aura that I think it debuffs the enemy, but basically helps helps your entire army at that point. Yes, Fiends are very much a valid consideration for the hammer roll. For Nurgle, you got Plague Drones, so they really don't do damage. Like, damage isn't really their thing, unless you're buffing them up with, like, Radagast, in which case, yeah, they'll do actually pretty good damage then. Then they have, like, 3 damage attacks and 2 damage attacks, pretty good there, but super duper playing in the resiliency. T8 is a great breakpoint. People have to put anti-tank firepower into these guys when really they want to put it into, like, your Greater Daemons, so that's great right there. 5 wounds, an odd amount of wounds, more than 4 as well, which is, like, huge. That means both 3 and 2 damage attacks. You're going to hate going in these guys. Where they really shine, though, first of all, they have a shooting attack, so that's great. Has no AP, and it's only 1 damage, but still useful. But Death's Head, in your shooting phase, after this model is shot, select 1 enemy hit by 1 or more of those attacks until the end of the turn. Any and all of your Nurgle demons can re-roll their wound rolls, so that affects the shooting and the fight phase. So suddenly, your Radagast with his 4 damage attacks, he's just slicing and picking up Terminators left and right. Even your Plague Bearers, suddenly, like, they're getting extra efficiency there. I really like the Plague Drones. I also think they're one of the sexiest models in the game, so any excuse to run them, I'm always looking for. Now, Tzeentch. Does Tzeentch even have a hammer? Not really. I guess you could maybe say Screamers, but they're more mission play, and definitely more of the Skirmisher. Speaking of, so yeah, let's get into Skirmishers. So Screamers are a fantastic Skirmisher, actually. So again, they're Beast, which means they can move through walls, and they have a 14-inch move with Fly, so they can just fly right over screens. That's no issue at all. T4 with 3 wounds and a 4-up invul, so they're pretty resilient there. They do have a little bit of mortal wound output. It's only 1 mortal wound, but you roll a die for each model in the unit. On a 4-up, they take 1 mortal wound, so that does add up, or better yet, you finish something off with that, so that's pretty okay there. Their damage output is nothing to write home about, mainly because they hit on 4s. So 3 attacks, hit on 4s, strength 6 is great, AP 2 is great, damage 2 is great, but again, only hit on 4s, so you're lucky if half of them get through, and then you still gotta, like, wound them after that. So not the best there, but for mission play and, like, skirmishing, these guys are one of the top dogs. Speaking of top dogs, Nurglings. Nurglings are, like, one of the best units in the entire game, which is funny. You look at their profile, it looks pretty bad. T3, 4 wounds is great, but only a 6-up invul, so like they do die like flies, although you'd be surprised with the 4 wounds, so a 12 wound, dude, you get 12 wounds for 40 points, so they are like deceptively like resilient in that regard, but they pop off for many other reasons. First of all, they're cheap, I already went over that. Second of all, they deep strike, which, you know, that's I should have mentioned in the beginning, every single unit in this army deep strikes, so that's pretty big, cheap unit of deep strikes. And then they have infiltrate. Infiltrate is giant. You don't have that much access to it in this army, so you got plenty of ways to run them. You can screen out your opponent, you can move block your opponent, you can play for secondaries, so first turn you make sure you got people next to a few objectives, that way you can cleanse them, you can deploy homers, you can, I forget the name, I always forget the name of it, but keep the opponent away from 6 inches of the middle. You got a million ways to take advantage of these guys. Nurglings are, if you get into like competitive play or whatever, they're a must-have unit. Even for casual play, they're great. It's fun to annoy your friends with annoying units. I remember they used to be even more annoying back in the day. They used to be like -1 to hit, and I think they had more wounds and all this funny stuff. And I had a good time, because I remember, man, trying to kill them, and it was like near impossible for all the stuff I was put in. So Nurglings most definitely are something you want to look at. They're exceptional for secondaries. That's mainly where we're going to play these guys. I keep a bunch in Deep Strike. Yes, you can infiltrate them, but I keep a bunch in Deep Strike, and that way, whatever secondary I pull, yep, I'll just plop down my 40-point unit, and by the way, I don't care one bit what happens to them after that. You can kill them immediately, and in fact, I prefer that, because that means you're not shooting other stuff. Yeah, Nurglings are like a must-have, in my opinion. Next up for Khorne, you got Flushhounds. Flushhounds are really good. They too are Beast. Beast is an important keyword, because demons, a lot of times you have Greater Demons, or it's going to be like mounted. So monsters and mounted often, almost always. You got a few infantry in there, and then the rest are like Beasts. So they help you deal with like mobility. And in 10th edition, thank God it's like this nowadays, but boards are pretty terrain dense, so it's kind of hard to get your movement around. Well, Flushhounds don't really care about that. So 70 points is a steal. You're getting 10 wounds, 10 T4 wounds with a 5-up invul for only 70 points. Got 12-inch move. Again, they can move through the walls. They got 1 flamer, so that's good for like screens. You can plink off a few of them. And then their melee is actually pretty good, man. 3 attacks each, hitting on 3s, strength 5, -1 and 1 damage each. That is perfectly fine right there. Yet again, man, you get a Rindmaster. Suddenly, your 70-point unit is putting out 15 damage to attacks, strength 6, AP 2. Like, for 70 points, that's some of the best in the game. Yeah, Flushhounds, I like them a lot. It's awesome that they, they come with the combat patrol, so they're pretty easy to collect. And otherwise, they are like a relatively cheap kit in like 40k terms. So, yeah, Flushhounds definitely worth looking at. Another unit for Khorne that plays into like mission play, or like maybe like mischief maker, I guess maybe I'd call it, a Skull Cannon. So doesn't do the most damage and is relatively expensive, sorta, 105 points. But where you bring him, first of all, he does give you some range. So 48-inch range with blast, D6 plus 2, strength 9. So you're wounding infantry on 2s, -1 AP, 2 damage. So he'll plink off, he'll kill a few Marines like each turn. So that there is great. But then where he's really big, Skulls of the Fallen. So after you shoot, you choose a unit that you hit with 1 or more attacks. They must take a battle shock test. Not only does it play directly into missions, so you can like flip objectives, that sort of stuff, it also plays off your stratagem. You can get +1 AP, and if a target is battle shocked, reroll wounds to any of your units. That gets a pretty big deal. Imagine Shalaxi with +1 AP and rerolling all of her wounds. So definitely, I've seen a lot of lists run the Skull Cannon. It helps that like they look super awesome, like a demonic cannon. Like that's pretty cool to me. Last up, so anti-tank. So anti-tank's a big deal for any and every army. It is something that that demons sort of struggle with, sorta. They don't have that much ranged anti-tank, which is going to be an issue, although they do have some like pretty good ones. The first one I'm going to point out is going to be the Soul Grinder. Soul Grinder, especially if you run him as Tzeentch, then all of a sudden you have legitimate ranged anti-tank. If you go Tzeentch, he gets Warp Gaze, so 48-inch range, D3 shots with blast, strength 12, -2 AP, D6 plus 2 damage. You put on top of this guy's profile, so T11, 4-up invul. He has a real save, a 3-up save, and 14 wounds. Yeah, dude. Yeah, he's definitely a little like tank killer and whatnot. You don't have to go Tzeentch either. Slaanesh is perfectly valid. Slaanesh is actually pretty good. It's devastating wounds, sustained hits 1, 6 shots, strength 9, -2 AP, 2 damage each. So he's great at killing like infantry, pseudo elites. Elites usually have 3 wounds, but any of the 2 wound ones out there, any of the weaker armies out there, this guy will definitely mulch from there. Nurgle is also a great choice. Nurgle gives you indirect, so artillery. You're getting blast, 36-inch range, so really good. D6 plus 1, strength 7, minus 1, 2 damage each, so he'll kill a few marines. He'll especially kill like chaff, scouts. Scouts, they have a, or like infiltrators, they have a bubble where you can't deep strike within 12 inches of them. This guy helps deal with that. Definitely take a look at the Soul Grinder. Also, he's one of my favorite models. Okay, so this is the Forge World version, which also is like even better, but even the baseline Soul Grinder looks so cool in person. As for, in my humble opinion, the best anti-tank in the army, you got the Lord of Change. I'm pretty sure I went over it earlier, but yeah, you give him the enhancement for strength 12. You get to choose between either you can go sustained hits D3. A lot of times, guys, you'll actually want to go ignores cover. Really depends on the target, but if they have a 3-up save, a lot of times I'll choose the ignores cover. That way they're only saving on 5s. I'd rather them save on 5s than 4s. Don't ever forget, you can get plus 1 AP with the stratagem. Suddenly they'll be saving on 6s, so that's pretty big. Into like infantry and that sort of stuff, sustained hits D3, definitely want to take a look at that. Yeah, Lord of Change, if you've been struggling at armor and that sort of stuff, definitely take a look at the Lord of Change. He's one of the better ones in the army. Now, for non-ranged options, you got Skarbrand. Skarbrand's one of the premier choices. Again, man, if you rapid ingress him behind your opponent's tanks, preferably behind Obscuring, so behind Ruins, so he can't be shot, run out your little 8 inches, and bada bing, bada boom, I'm going to just slice up. And again, you can split the profiles. It is so easy to split his profile and kill multiple tanks, multiple, like, units. 6 damage each. So if just 2 of them get through, by the way, it's strength 16 minus 4 AP. Just 2 of them gets through, that kills your average tank. You got 8 of those attacks, you hit on 2s, so you probably put 3 into each. Well, okay, you'd be smart, put 4 into each of them, so don't get too wild, but maybe if some wild time comes up and you're between 3 tanks, you have okay odds of actually killing 3 tanks with this guy in a single turn. Yeah, for 305 points, I like that. The other Khorne option is Bloodletters. They really are like the anti-everything. When you buff them up with the Ringmaster, they really are anti-everything. When it comes to vehicles and stuff, I do prefer Bloodmaster for +1 to wound. That way you're wounding a lot of stuff on 4s. Skull Taker's alright. You'd be wounding on 5s with the dev wound, so it really is like dealer's choice. Typically, if they have a high invul, then yeah, you go Skull Taker. Otherwise, yeah, Bloodmaster generally tends to be better. And then finally, for Slaanesh, again, melee option, Shalaxi. Shalaxi will murder any and everything, but especially vehicles. Shalaxi is a great choice. She's kind of spendy, 450 points, so you're definitely spending for it. She's definitely going to get focused down, but in a sense, that's a good thing, because that buys the rest of your army, like, breathing room to get around. Also, when it comes to these expensive models, I like them, man. When you're building up your collection, if you're trying to get to 2K, 1,500, anything like that, expensive points is actually great, because that, like, yeah, that makes you building up your collection a lot easier. So Shalaxi, definitely something worth considering for your anti-tank role. So that should cover the anti-tank. That should cover the core pretty well, I believe. Again, I apologize if I didn't cover a certain unit or certain god that that you think deserve more attention. Once the codex comes around, the next like points changes or any of that sort of stuff, we'll probably revisit it. But yeah, you got so many options, and just because I didn't mention one does not at all mean it's not good. There's too many data sheets to go through. So for sure, if you like Beast of Nurgle or whatever choice you like, pretty much all of them are valid. There's not many bad units in the book. Some of them might be slightly overpriced, but every single one is at least usable. Alright, last up, I want to show you guys some army lists that I put together. So 2 of them are going to be 1,000 points. The first one's going to be built off the Combat Patrol. And so it's going to be mono Khorne, I believe. I always forget the list I make before they come up. But we got that one. The second one is also 1,000 and would be an example of, like, if I was to start from scratch, how I might build a 1K list. And I actually have a 2K list that is kind of fun. That one I slightly remember, and I'm kind of excited to show you. So, let's see here. So the first one, again, this builds off the Combat Patrol. So it is mono Khorne. So, alright. What did we add here? So we added a unit of Blood Crushers. I gave him a Skull Master. I don't believe he's called Blood Master anymore, but I gave you the character Blood Crusher. And then, that's right, I'm bringing 2 Bloodletter Bombs, which means you want to include the Ringmaster. Ah, man, I think this, for 1K, this would be an incredibly powerful list, in my opinion. Now, you do notice you have literally 0 shooting, so do be aware of that. But that is pretty fun right there, if you ask me. I think, yeah, this would be great at a 1K game. In fact, it might even be, like, powerful. You would have trouble, so you'd want to play your Flush Hounds. You want to be careful with them, because these guys are going to be your main, like, objective holders and, like, objective takers. Definitely leave one behind to sit on your home field, and then this guy, you got to be really careful. Hope he doesn't die. But otherwise, yeah, you'd be in your opponent's face, hopefully turn 1, but otherwise turn 2. Be smart when you're playing melee armies, so you do need to, like, sneak your way up the board, so be sure you're playing with, like, good terrain and whatnot, and make sure you're hiding these guys. That said, they're pretty easy to hide. Do be aware, too, you have the option, combine these two. Suddenly you got a 7-man squad. You're rolling 7 dice for the mortal wounds. That'd be an average of, 7 mortal wounds on average? Something like that. I'm terrible at math, but, either way, I think this would be, yes, a very fun, and powerful list. Definitely something I'd look at. Legit, guys, if you're going mono Khorne, legitimately, like, I think Renmaster is an auto-include. You don't have to auto-include them, but if you don't, suddenly Bloodletters aren't, like, nearly as efficient as they could be, even with the characters. Something I love about the Footlords, they're super cheap. Bloodmaster's 65 points, Skulltaker's 85 points, and they are worth every single point of that. So, yeah, that's the first list. Again, if you're building off the Combat Patrol, I think that's a great route to go. The second one is, if I was just building one from scratch, I think, too, I tried to be a little fluffy. I tried to bring a variety of the gods, I believe. So let's take a look here. Ooh, that's right. All right. So this brings a little bit of everything. How it works, what was it? How it works, so there's a lot of ways you can change it, but basically you got the characters to, like, do the heavy lifting, and everything else, or yeah, almost everything else is there for mission play. So, Great Unclean One, I would definitely deploy him, give him the enhancement, he just trumbles up the board and does his thing. In a 1k game, like, I don't think he's gonna die. They'd have to focus, like, 2 turns on this guy to kill him, so I think he's fine. Put him in the center objective, just cause some chaos there. Selesky, I would be tempted to deep strike behind them, and again, just cause havoc in their backline. She's nigh invulnerable, unless you roll a 1, which would really suck. She's basically invulnerable for at least 2 turns, because again, when she dies, she gets back up on a 2-up. Ridiculous Slimix. Again, this is if I was making a list, so of course I had to bring this guy. I just love his model so much. That said, beyond being a sick model, he's also pretty good, especially at 1k. T10 is really good in 1k games. It's really powerful there, so people again would struggle. It would be really, to kill these 3 characters would take a lot of doing, again, especially at small point values, and then everything else is focused on objective play. Pretty much none of these do any meaningful damage. Seekers are fantastic. They're one of the all-stars on my list, but literally you look at them funny and they all just die. Like somebody looks them sideways, they go like that. So do be aware of that. Flamers, they'll do okay damage, especially if you combine the 3 together and like you focus them all on one target. Then they will like kill Marines and that sort of stuff. But otherwise, they're exceptional at killing chaff. So a really common tactic I use with them is I deep strike into my opponent's backfield and I kill whatever he has on his home objective. I either use the 3-inch deep strike stratagem so that I take it immediately, or I just wait until my next turn and I just walk onto it. Plague Bearers, they would just sit at home. Don't forget, though, so you would sticky to the objective, so if your opponent doesn't have deep strikers of his own or you're able to deal with them, then, yes, you totally run out to the midfield and start sticking stuff. This would definitely be a list I would run. I'd run this in 1k game, no problem, and I'd be pretty confident with it. Great Unclean One, your opponent might even be annoyed from it, so maybe you don't bring it every game. This is definitely a route I would be looking at if I started from scratch. Last up, so we got a 2k list. So this one, I remember. So it goes balls out on Greater Daemons. It brings one of every god. This is a relatively common style, so they call it Monster Mash, if you weren't already aware. Monster Mash, very common for demons. So, similar to the last list, so you got the obvious, you got the Greater Daemons, so a lot of beat sticks, and then everything else was hyper-focused on scoring. So I brought the fast stuff that mostly moves through walls. Seekers, unfortunately, are mounted, so they don't move through walls, but the Flesh Hounds play directly into that. Notice I don't have a Renmaster, but you don't need one when you're going this style. Pink Horrors, I would definitely try to get on one of the central objectives, one of the No Man's Lands objectives. Obviously, Great Unclean One can stay on the other. Be'lakor, I would totally deploy on the line, use his can't be shot from 18-inch bubble. I'd have his friends. I would deep strike Skarbrand, but I would keep the Lord of Change and the Keeper with him as long as I could. That way they can't be shot. Lord of Change is your anti-tank, so try to keep him alive. Don't let him get shot. And then, like I said, I would definitely deep strike Skarbrand. Try to use Rapid Ingress. If you guys haven't been using Rapid Ingress, a lot of people forget about it or just don't have much experience with it. Sincerely, if you've never used it before, you very rarely use it, force yourself to use it next game. And whether you're playing this list or any other list, force yourself to use Rapid Ingress. Make sure you're learning how to use that. That's one of the key strengths of Demons, the fact that we can deep strike literally any and everything, and Skarbrand is beautiful at it. Be'lakor has meaningful shooting. Keeper Secrets have meaningful shooting. Tzeentch has meaningful shooting. Nurgle even has a little flamer. So you have a decent amount of like range output. It is all for the most part short range. Even Skarbrand has a little bit of shooting. It's only really for shooting chaff. But yes, I think this would be an ultra fun list. Be pretty expensive to collect, but guess what? That's you're playing Warhammer, so that's sort of how it goes. This is a pretty common style. Theoretically, so I did not make this to be competitive at all, but you could totally bring this to a tournament, and honestly, if it's like an RTT and you were playing it well, you could totally win an RTT with this. I don't think it's like cheesy overpowered either, so like you'd totally play a casual game with it, have a lot of fun as well. Greater Daemons, gonna be a very common sight. I hope you like them. Oops. So I do have one last, well, I'll show you a bonus. So this is like an example of a list that like I run on my own like recently. I don't know if it's like hyper optimized or anything, but let's take a look here. This is like my average list. Didn't even plan to show this in the video really, but then early I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll just show them one of my regular lists. So this is one I ran to a lot of success. So again, Rinmaster is MVP. He's fantastic. Keys directly off the 2 Bloodletter bombs, so I always deep strike these 2, put them off to the side. By the way, if you guys want more, again, if you want more competitive info and more like, I have like combos, how to use the stratagems, all that sort of stuff, check out my How to Run Demons in 2024 video. Genuinely, I think it has really good info in it. But regardless, always deep strike these guys. Often with Nurglings, often you're tempted to infiltrate all of them. No, I like to deep strike a bunch of them, again, for the mission play. And often I'll put, usually like one flamer. I like to deploy the other flamer in my own corner in case I get to investigate signals. And then the rest of it should be kind of obvious. We got the mission play again. These guys scout, so what's cool is you get to scout after you know who goes first. If you go first, just rush forward as far as you can. If you go second, then don't be afraid to fall back into your own deployment zone and hide behind cover. They have freaking 14-inch move. They got no issue with that. They reroll advances and charges. Like, yeah, dude, they're great, especially for move blocking. I love when I go first. You can basically block somebody directly into their own deployment zone. That'll really mess with some people. Beyond that, it's pretty obvious. Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I do deploy Skarbrand. I don't put him in Deep Strike usually. I used to always put them in Deep Strike, but these days I keep them, because if you do put them in Deep Strike, you're pretty light on units, man. Again, pretty much all these just die the moment you look at them, so like you got to be smart with like obscuring in that. But I used to get pushed back turn 1 really hard, and then the rest of the game was like fighting my way out of my own like half of the board. By keeping Skarbrand in there, you know, he keeps people honest. They definitely don't want to come anywhere near Skarbrand. But yeah, again, you know, this isn't competitively focused, even though I brought it up so much, but it's just an example of like a real quote-unquote real list. All right, we're almost done. So one of the last things I want to go over modeling tips for you. So I probably own every single demon kit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I own all of them. And so, you know, I have some okay advice. One of my big tips I tell everybody about Nurglings. So these come in 3 kits. You can actually, or 3 parts. You can actually see the 3 parts they come in, the little dividing line they got right there. What I've done, so I have a bunch of them, but in the end I was like, you know what, I can make like infinite of these if I do it this way. Split those bits into 3 different sections. So just put the 1/3 down on the base. They're pretty much just as tall, so it's not modeling for advantage in my opinion or any of that. You can at least double the amount. I believe you can triple the amount if you do it that way. You will have to buy bases, but bases are super cheap if you go on Amazon or whatever. So that's my first tip. Split up the Nurglings, you get way more. This is like a $30 kit. Instead of getting 3 models, you can get 9 of them. You can get a full squad of them. So definitely a big tip there. When it comes to Greater Daemons, so especially if you're just starting out, so each one has 2 versions. They have the named version, and then they have the regular version. How I did it personally, I put the named head on, and I magnetized the rest of it. Magnetizing, if you guys, and that's my other big tip, is like magnetize, guys. It's worth it, especially with big, expensive Greater Daemons. At least them. The rest of them you can probably get by, like not many other units need to be magnetized. Greater Daemons, you spend like $160 on each of these. Very, very, very strongly recommend you to magnetize them. But yeah, I put the character head on them and then build them normal otherwise. That way I can say they're either or. Even my Lord of Change is like that. I've played them with tournaments without anybody even batting an eye. I just tell them every time. I just say, yeah, I felt like, Tzeentch like everything morphs and changes all the time. This guy felt like having 2 heads. I give him 3 heads if I freaking could. So that's another piece of advice I have. I don't think I have the model here, but dang it, I don't. Tzeentch Chariots, I would magnetize them as well, because that gives you an Exalted Flamer and or a Change Caster that doesn't look lame. So that's how I've done all of mine. I just magnetize the bases they go onto, so I can flip between them. There's the Exalted right there. Yeah, he can either be a Flamer Chariot or I forget their names off the top of my head. Lastly, the Slaanesh Chariots. This is just like, I don't know, a tidbit for you. The Exalted one, so the really big one, the really big one is literally 2 Secret Chariots smashed together. There's no way that I'm aware of to magnetize them or anything like that. So just be aware, if you want to make an Exalted Chariot, you got to buy 2 of these kits. And I wouldn't put it past GW to discontinue it. I'm not even positive you can still buy it. I bet you can, but I'm not positive. Dude, the Exalted has such a big base and such a big model. I personally, and it's not that good right now. If you're way into it, or you're a cool guy and you want to do like a chariot themed list, because that'd be a really cool theme, then by all means go hog wild. But yeah, I just want to mention it's literally 2 of these guys smashed together. And then lastly, an easy modeling tip is the foot characters. So yeah, like Transweaver, the Herald of Slaanesh. You just take a demon head, give it a cool head, kit bash it a little bit if you're able to, paint it differently, however you want to do it. But you can basically turn any of the basic characters into the foot version, and that applies to every single god. Bloodletters, you can make a Blood Master, easy peasy with one of these guys. I think how I did it, the super simple way, when I built my Rin Master, I took his head and I put it onto one of these guys, and I obviously took one of their heads and put it on there. You can't tell the difference at all, and in fact, this guy's head looks just like the real kit's, the real Bloodmaster's head, so it's hard to even tell that's different. Theoretically, you could probably get away doing it with Skulltaker. He does have his cloak, which is pretty it's a defining trait of him. It's badass skull cloak. So that one's a little more questionable, but theoretically, you could totally do it. Don't be afraid to do counts as with your friends or like proxies. So you basically just say, you set them aside, say this is Skulltaker. You put a skull can, say this is a Rin Master. 99% of people are going to be cool with it, as long as you're not doing like cheesy, silly stuff. The last thing I want to go over is helpful resources. Resources help you not only improve at demons, but improve at the game. The first one, well, you're looking at it, Tabletop Simulator. So if you haven't already heard or seen or used it, well, hopefully you've seen it. I've been doing the whole video, but if you've never tried it yourself, my goodness, is a helpful resource. It's it's super cheap. It's always on sale for $10, so ultra cheap there. And guys, look, you get to play entire mini tens of thousands of dollars worth of models for free. You get to practice. You could practice multiple times a day, from the comfort of your home. Definitely check out Tabletop Simulator or TTS. I have a video on it, a tutorial on how to get set up for it. So if you are interested in getting up and running, improving your game, man, when you're practicing every day or at least every week, obviously you're only gonna improve over time. So 100%, I couldn't recommend it more. Definitely take a look at TTS if you haven't already considered it for yourself. Next up, Battlescribe. So Battlescribe is a list writing tool. It helps you write lists. More than that, it shows you the rules for all of your units as well. So you don't have to bother pulling out the codex or whatever. You can just pull it up in Battlescribe, show your opponent, or check for yourself. Battlescribe is a huge resource, gigantic. What I love is maybe I'm at work, I'm sitting on the toilet, wherever. I'm just writing up lists. I'll be writing up a new crazy demon list or writing up CSM, whatever it is. By the way, all the resources I'm mentioning are going to be linked in the description below, so be sure to check them out. Somewhat related to Battlescribe, or at least rules, is Wahapedia. So that's a website, and basically it lists any and every rule, all the army rules, all the stratagems, all the unit profiles, all that sort of stuff for each and every army in 40k. I love it so much. Where I use it especially is TTS. So I'll be playing somebody, they'll bring up a rule that that sounds, is that really how that works? I'll just pull it up in TTS, it takes me 10 seconds, all of a sudden I know right away whether it was correct or not, and often damn, it really is is that good. So definitely consider WHFB. I love it, man. And a really easy way, if you want to learn about a unit, just Google it. So I would, like, literally, my search term would be Blood Crushers WHFB. 10 seconds later, I'm learning about how good Blood Crushers are. Next up, so for Math Hammer, so especially if you want to get in the competitive side of things, Math Hammer is really important to like learn how like efficient a certain unit is into another particular profile, or even just like general profiles, and do like marine equivalents, vehicle equivalents, etc. Unit Crunch. Unit Crunch is an excellent resource, pretty easy to use, very in depth. It has like every option ever. So if you want to see like, oh, what if I reroll wounds? What if I reroll hit rolls of 1? What if they get a +1 to their save? You get a million ways to like tweak it there, and again, it's simple to use. I love the developer as well. He's a really cool guy, ultra kind. He's commented on a few of my videos. If you're watching this, I doubt it, but like, you rock, dude. Yeah, I love you. Next up, and this really, you know what, this is just for like learning in general, but it is more competitively focused, Khorne Hammer. I would assume if you've been playing 40k for a while and at least like, you know, pay attention to it on the internet, you've probably heard of Khorne Hammer by now. But they're pretty close with GW, so they get previews of all the codexes, so when they come out, they're able to review them really well. They have competitive innovation articles, so you learn about the meta, how that's going. They also have army focuses, so you learn all about their tips and their advice on playing demons, not only from a competitive level, but even just like in general play. Khorne Hammer is fantastic. They have really kind authors as well. They've always been like really like upfront, upstanding individuals, it seems like. Another one that's on the same level as Khorne Hammer, but is specific to Chaos, is Warhammer. Warhammer is such a good resource for anything Chaos related. Demons, CSM, World Eater, like you name it, they play all of them. They have really cool authors. Mike Pestilence is an awesome dude, really good player. He's like a world-class player as well. Warhammer's one I love reading. I love their articles. He does like, or they do like really out there stuff all the time. They'll bring subpar units, and well, quote-unquote subpar units, and they'll win GTs and majors with them all the time and just prove that, yeah, man, it's not like just because people say something isn't one way, it doesn't mean it's actually like that. I love Warhammer. Very like funny, yeah, they're pretty funny articles too. Yeah, I love to read them. Next up, you got the kind of obvious one, Reddit. Reddit is a great resource. There's a few of them I use. You got the obvious one, Warhammer 40k, the main subreddit. That's really good for like kit bashes or looking at models or just like general news and discussion. If you're into competitive stuff, Warhammer Competitive is a really popular one. You probably see me on there all the time, chatting it up with people. And then for Chaos, you got Chaos 40k, and I believe there's Chaos Daemons, I believe is the name of it. Hopefully there's room for all of them, but I'll post all these in the description below, so if you want to check out any of them, I would highly recommend it. When it comes to lore and that sort of stuff, the fluff, I love 1D6 Chan. I said in my last video, but don't worry, I'm not a 4chan like Nutso, but 1D6chan is different. 1D6chan is it's a wiki. It's a wiki that like anybody can edit, and they have people who are like probably live, eat, breathe, sleep Warhammer all the time. And what's cool is it's not just 40k, it's not just AOS or what, it's like all of it. So Warhammer Fantasy is really popular on there, and I love the Warhammer Fantasy lore is like some of the best out there, especially for demons. So you learn all sorts of stuff from that. They're hilarious as well. They really are like funny. Lots of memes on there, that sort of stuff. I said it for the CSM version of this video, but their tactical advice is terrible. Definitely take it with a grain of salt. Some of it's useful. Don't get me wrong. There's always useful. There's always multiple points of view and all that sort of stuff. But just be aware, they don't always have the best advice, in my humble opinion. The last resource is, this is going to be cheesy, but me. You can always reach out to me with any questions whatsoever. I prefer you leave a comment because it helps the metrics and everything, but you can always email me as well. Sometimes I don't fit in a comment or, you know, whatever your reason is, you can always email me. I get a lot of emails, like every week somebody's reaching out to me. It feels like normally. So you can always reach out to me with that. I mentioned in the beginning, I have a bunch of videos all about like demons. I have a full-on demon like army review. I have the playing them competitive review. I have all that's on tacticas. I have a video specifically to like using Nurglings and infiltrators. More than just demons, I do all the chaos factions, mainly CSM and demons, but I play all of them. Again, that plays into how awesome TTS is. It's so easy for me to like try units I've never tried before and stuff. So by all means, I'm here to help if you guys need anything. I believe, though, I think we covered all the subjects. I know this video's long, and my videos normally are long, but demons especially, like, I knew coming in, like, this is gonna, yeah, it's freaking demons. There's so many data sheets and so many rules to go through, and I knew this would take a while. So if you guys stuck it out, like, thank you. You guys rock. I appreciate y'all. As usual, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know. I'm very curious if anybody has any suggestions on future content. I love hearing it, and, you know, because obviously that's like, oh, that's what the people want, you know. So don't be afraid to reach out. I plan on covering all the CSM detachments. I'm way into demons. It's funny. I feel like I'm better with demons than CSM. Granted, the codex just came out, so I still need to learn them for sure. And I do think CSM will probably be stronger once I, you know, figure out all the little quirks to them. But yeah, it is funny. For tournament play, it'd be really hard for me to decide, like, ooh, do I really want to win it, or do I want to, like, enjoy myself and get better with CSM? Anyways, I appreciate you guys again. If you guys stuck it through, if you're watching this part, I appreciate you. You, the individual right there. You rock, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, let me know if you guys need anything. Again, thank you all for watching. Have a great night. Good luck out there. And remember, skulls for the Skull Throne.